did you go to school?
What do you think of what's going on right now, mate?
These evil little invisible parasites.
Satan-worshipping Freemason moron.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
We're not run by factions.
Get the fuck out of camera!
There are much more powerful international forces in play.
Is this pink guy? Is this what pink guy is? I don't fucking know what's happening.
Please go outside and look at the moon quickly.
It's been crazy, guys, but guess what? It's how it is, mate.
Mate, because I want to do you slowly.
But I ain't spending any time on it.
Welcome to the Conditional Release Program, a podcast that delves into the netherworld of cults, crims, and con artists. I'm Jack the Insider, otherwise known as Peter Hoysted for tax purposes.
And I'm Joel Hill, and today we're going to make a din about dins.
Yes, the New World Order pedophile government is insisting company directors register to get a digital identification number. And that can only spell one thing, besides din: constant surveillance and forced insect eating, which is actually three things.
Oh dear, that is too much for me to handle. And we'll have a serious look at drug law reform in this country, because other countries are doing it, some for a long time now. And guess what? It's working with a butt.
With a butt, yes. We'll try and explain the brouhaha over soft-sit nomenclature and come up with an easy solution to fix it once and for all.
Yes. But before we get on that, we need to shamelessly put our hands out like the grifters that we are and ask, nay beg, for your support in keeping the show coming to you hot and fresh.
Yes, the Conditional Release Program is free, but it doesn't pay the rent. Don't make us sell supplements which can cure your bum rash. Actually, I'm working on a little something right now involving frankincense and Vegemite, which tastes disgusting and may not only cure what ails you, but makes for a lovely gift at a birthday shower when you think your mate's little bundle of joy might just be the Messiah. Hail him! Hosanna!
Now, you listen here, Jack. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that till he turns about 30.
Yes, and maybe he's an apprentice carpenter and we get a bit of a vibe. We'll see what happens. But don't make us do that. It's embarrassing.
Yes,
Maria Z does
please.
it for the rest of us. It's fine. It would be a whole lot easier if you just gave us $5 a month, and you'll get all sorts of extra bonus content to keep cooker idiots and grifters being identified and mocked mercilessly for your listening pleasure.
Go to www.patreon.com/the Conditional Release Program and flick us a bit of your hard-earned. Do it. Do it now. And just to prove it, Patreon Jimmy is listening to us record the show right now. We had a good chat beforehand. Thank you, Jimmy, for your patronage.
Pleasure to meet you, buddy. But we will wait quietly now while you get your credit card out, just like Jimmy did. No, we can't do that. We can't wait because you have to get on with the show. Jimmy's waiting. He's waiting.
And that means it's time for the CRP's Fortnightly News. That's a Conditional Release Program. Fortnightly News to you.
The latest thing to rock the cooker universe is a new federal government initiative which will implement a director identification number, otherwise known as a DIN.
Din.
A DIN is a compulsory scheme forcing directors of incorporated companies to register before November 30, 2022. So the mandate's actually already begun.
Yeah, and we have to thank Vexatious Litigant for excellent work on this. Most of this piece will be based on findings that you can find on Twitter and Facebook. Genuinely good account it is from Vexatious Litigant for following the legal shenanigans of cookers and other highbrow cooker comedy content.
So the director ID number is mandatory, and that's a mandate. And we all know how much cookers hate mandates.
Yes, they do. Yes, the cookers hate being told what to do, and apparently that's what the Nazis did.
Oh, no.
And what domestic abusers do. More on that later.
Yeah, truly. So it seems like they're also like being the directors of companies. I mean, like, of course, most people outraged by this have no idea what a DIN is, what a director does, why they exist. But you just insert Klaus Schwab into it and they lose their fucking minds. Just anything about digital ID, fuck's sake. I mean, ASIC Records, they show that incorporated companies are incredibly popular with cooker influencers. They love starting companies with all sorts of fantastic names. I think it's the limited liability structure. It really speaks to their sense of personal responsibility.
Yes, but if you actually sat them down and explained directors' liabilities, that'd freak them out, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway.
They like to talk about the corporation's law, but not in detail.
No, not in that kind of detail.
Yeah.
Yes, anyway, the director ID system is a form of digital ID, and when it comes to conspiracy-obsessed hermits, the only thing they hate more than mandates are digital identification methods.
Oh, nothing worse. So, yeah, dim sims. So, most cook units will claim that digital ID will usher in this sort of new wave of compliance through social credit scores, which is all part of Klaus Schwab's Great Reset agenda.
Damn him.
Look, I'm just going to say this. Klaus Schwab doesn't support credit scores. That's in his books. You can read them. They're available. Just saying, guys.
He's just saying that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's all out in the open. No, he's lying. Whatever. So, a prominent commentator on this topic who I found on Telegram, an actual fucking lawyer, has suggested that this is an expansion of cancel culture, insinuating the government will shut down businesses that aren't woke enough. The source for this is, of course, just trust me, bro. Don't worry about it. I've just got a hunch.
I'm a lawyer in that. I'm a law-talking guy.
Yeah, it's a human rights lawyer too. I mean, pick your lane and stick in it because you're not good at this.
Yep.
They also go on to complain about how business owners are constantly under threat, which just is this victimhood complex, the right, which is just going from bad to worse. It is next level. And of course, everything is communism to these people.
Communism.
All
Damn it,
communism.
I knew it. Those damn communists.
Director ID communism.
It's also the UN's Agenda 2013 plan and something else about 2030, which is going to be a really bad year. We haven't seen this level of government oppression since the ABN was introduced by the Howard government in July 2000. A truly dark time in business.
Oh, yeah, we've never looked back. It
was just awful.
It's been horrid. Nobody knew the price of a cake. There were actually concerns about the privacy impacts of the ABN, to be fair. In a paper called The GST Brings Taxing Times for Privacy, it was argued that the register of information attached to the ABN would bring issues of sort of information retention that would essentially impact these hobby-style businesses and not-for-profit community organizations that don't want to have their information leaked by some sort of shitty internet breach. But the issue of privacy is being raised by conspiracy theorists on Telegram who are asking that somewhat reasonable question, which is, why should we trust them with more of our personal information? But it's not actually fucking somewhat reasonable. You trust them with way more information than this. To apply for your Centrelink, big fans of that. Medicare, where would you be with that tax benefit A and B, you fuckwits?
Free money.
Exactly. You will give anything to get that, but when it comes to basic compliance for the good of society, no, that's too far.
Communism.
I assure you, you give as much, if not more, information to your real estate agent if you're renting, who keeps it on a fucking Excel spreadsheet labeled ID documents for tenants on their desktop.
And a dodgy old filing cabinet that remains unlocked.
Exactly, which they eventually throw in council cleanup. So we never expected their arguments to be genuine or in good faith, because since when did cookers ever discuss anything in good faith? But to give you a picture of how this is being discussed, here is a clip from Rebecca Lloyd from Fair Business Australia, self-titled. You know, they call themselves that. It's
fair. FAIR.
Exactly, you know,
just
because
in case you're wondering.
They're so fair, and you'll find out why soon. And this is like a business consultancy that markets heavily towards conspiracy theorists.
Fair Business Australians, on the night of the 9th to the 10th of November, I believe it was, 1938. Kristallnacht, a night of so much devastation that was the start of the Jews being put into ghettos and things like that. Crystal Night was the night that people stood back and did nothing. Crystal Night was the night that began what would be the Holocaust of 6 million Jews going to their death in camps that were often right close to where people actually lived. Make no mistake that what has just happened in the last 2 years was Crystal Night. And when people stood by and did nothing, that is the start of what is going to continue until the Great Reset of 2030. They are now coming for directors with IDs. So now directors are talking and actually spreading the word amongst themselves. We have to do X, Y, Z, or we're going to get this type of fine. And then if we do X, Y, Z, because we need to protect and provide for our families, who's to know where it's going to go for there? Who's to know what the next step is? And so Kristallnacht, people stood back and went, oh, geez, okay, that's not very good. Oh, probably shouldn't have. Oh, okay. And people stood back and did nothing. And then they moved into the ghettos. And then they starved, some of them. Some of them escaped. And then they were moved off to the concentration camps. You may take my life, but you will not take my freedom. And that is what we have, ladies and gentlemen, in Australia. This is Crystal Night again for directors now. Do not think that once you do the first thing that they're asking you to do as a director, that they will not go again and again and again and again and again. This is exactly how an abusive relationship starts. It starts with a nasty remark and a sideways glance. It starts with a little shove, and then it moves to a hit across the face, and then before you know, you're getting 7 bells beaten out of you, men and women, both victims of domestic violence.
So here are the reasons why the government are implementing a director ID system. Not because it's fucking crystal knocked. This is from the Small Business website.
Yeah, Crystal, no, bit different. Anyway, this is what the government says. The shareholders, employees, creditors, consumers, external administrators and regulators are entitled to know the names and certain details of the directors of a company. All directors are required by law to verify their identity with us before receiving a director ID. This is important because it will help to prevent the use of false or fraudulent director identities, which is a problem.
Yep.
Make it easier for external administrators and regulators to trace directors' relationships with companies over time.
Yep.
Again, very important. Stops phoenixing. Identify and eliminate director involvement in unlawful activity such as illegal phoenix activity.
Exactly.
Just to explain what that is, they sink companies, they start a new one. And creditors lose out, and then they just move on to the next company.
Just go bankrupt, make a new one.
A lot.
Yeah. Happens in the construction industry all the time.
You don't even go bankrupt. You don't have to go bankrupt. You just run away from your creditors, essentially. And you do that because you've got false directors.
Exactly. Yeah, the entire thing is based on fraud, and in the current system, it's way easy to conduct it. So they're fixing it. Now, I'm going to leave it to you to wonder why cookers are concerned about these issues of avoiding fraud and phoenixing. I don't want to make any inferences here, especially not the character of Rebecca Lloyd. That would be speaking out of turn.
Yes.
Let's just wonder why people in the movement think that preventing fraud and phoenixing in corporations is akin to the beginning of the Holocaust.
Yes, of course, pseudo-law peddlers are trying to make a buck off by creating this bizarre issue and capitalising off their reaction to what is fundamentally a very good, reasonable accounting mechanism and a positive step toward good corporate governance.
It is. It's simple. Telegram groups are sharing ways to get an extension on the deadline, and the usual annoying template letters claiming they can't find this in the Corporations Act and therefore it must be invalid. Obviously, this was rooted in legislation. Like, fuck, you searched the act online and you didn't find what you were looking for, and now you've got this gotcha template? Fuck off, Wendy.
Because it's all gobbledygook, Joel, in black letters, and I can't read them.
Oh, what? You're not good at law? Maybe you should stop dabbling in it, you moron. Anyway, so the Treasury Laws Amendment, Registries Modernisation and Other Measures Act of 2020 introduced Part 9.1A of the Corporations Act 2001, and they, of course, claim this isn't there because it's not there. It's because they don't know how to search for it. Because they're not smart.
Google is hard, Joel. Google is hard.
Just go on Ostley and anyway, just give up. Stop doing this. The letter basically relies on this sort of classic pseudo-law tenet. The silence is acceptance. And this is absolutely not the case. This is very much not the case. They teach us this in like day 1 of law school. So they babble on about how the new system is illegal, and if they don't get a response, that it's not a matter of them being entitled brats having a tantrum about something they don't understand, but the silence is acceptance and their terms will be met.
It could even be a contract. Silence could be a contract.
It's so embarrassing they think this, and they all do. I mean, I was listening to Tim Four Tales today, and it was all through it, and I'm like, fuck, no, silence is not acceptance. Shut up, James, you anus. So Mike Palmer from Know Your Rights, a pseudo-law group that paywalls the secrets to getting away with endless criminal and civil offences and personal debts, are all over this. I'm not sure what they're saying, though, because I'm not going to give them money to find out.
You need to give them money to find out.
I'm not going to do that. But a human rights lawyer, and this was one before, named Andrea Tokaji, has been doing online seminars on the topic for $50 a person.
Ooh.
What? What are you fucking saying so magical? So if you apply for the DIN over the phone, apparently it's no longer digital. That's definitely worth $50. I'm really glad. I think you failed to realise that the other person who's on the other side of the phone, they're just filling out the web form for you over the phone. But I guess you can dream, Yeah. I mean, look, you got to tell them something for $50, right? You can't just sit there and stare at them. So another classic character in the cast of idiots here, Monica Smith, joined the party. She intends to comply with the new law. Bless her heart for doing that. She's director of God knows how many companies at this point. She loves directing a company. It's her thing. She probably wanted to be a director at first, but then she realized being a political agitator was the only thing that could actually work for her, and now she just does that. She loves cash, the folding type, but all of her donations are digital. She hates the internet, although her entire organization is based on the internet.
That's true.
It's
Yeah.
bizarre. But so she's
It's a
given
dilemma.
people a how-to guide on her website with instructions on how to avoid using the evil MyGov app. Of course,
Ooh.
she calls it MyGov ID because she's an idiot and thinks it sounds better. That's a fucking that's a verification app. It's like a two-step authentication app. You use that to access the app that then gives you access to online government services. You do not access government services through the MyGov ID app. That's not how this works.
No,
but
it's separate.
But that's our moniker, you know? I can't single her out, though, because, like I say, they're all calling it that. It has a bit of ring to it, and, like, as if cookers care about data. They don't give a shit. They love this shit. They just all fucking theatrical actors on a dumb stage of pseudo-law and nonsense and scams. So she goes on to explain that you can do the application over the phone. But she didn't want to do that.
No.
Why? She doesn't kind of explain why. But I reckon maybe she called up, she heard the operator typing during the call and sort of missed what Andrea was going out there.
Well,
and
it's
like,
not going to be quick, is it, over the
No.
phone? It's
And she
not
has
going to be all that quick. And
no
she's a busy
attention
girl.
span. No, she has no attention span. She's not busy. She's got fuck all going on right now. But let's see. What's the alternative? She wants to mail it in. Snail mail. Postal style.
Yeah.
So apparently this is only available for people living overseas. Now, this makes no fucking sense to me at all. It's incredibly strange and stupid. That's another story. But why would you give people overseas the option to post? That is so incredibly inconvenient. The beauty of the internet is you can do shit across borders. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. She goes on to say that this is the case. You can only do this if you're living overseas. But, quote, I am using this anyway, and I'm sure it will be fine.
That's good enough for me, Joe.
Classic Monica, just classic. She then instructs her followers to fill in the form like this, where it says, what is your home address outside Australia? She simply put, I don't live outside Australia. I just want to do a paper version of this application.
There you go. That's
Okay.
how you do it.
And look, she reckons it won't work. And maybe it will. Maybe they'll be like, okay, let's let this idiot do it by paper. But honestly, Monica, never change, because I found that so deeply funny. You are just in this state of perpetual arrested development, so you never will change. But please don't. Don't evolve. Don't get smarter. Don't go to university. Just keep being you. You're just so beautiful in your current form. I love it so much.
And while Monica was hard to beat with her bizarre plan to beat the system with paper forms, my favourite comes from the common law pseudo-law group Copyright Claim Services. Ooh, this absolute piece of legal genius comes from Debbie, who thought this all up by herself, or so they say.
Yeah.
But Debbie went even further. She researched the Corporations Act, and what she found will surprise so many business leaders. When a company or its representative accountant registers under the Corporations Act with ASIC, that corporation tacitly accepts the Act as their corporate constitution, right? But what your accountant may not be aware of is that if a company writes its own constitution, their constitution supersedes the Corporations Act. It's acting outside the Corporations Act, and it becomes a law that the company must obey. Knowing this, it is a simple matter to write your own company constitution or to amend it, if you already have one, to include a stipulation specifically stating that its directors may not register for any kind of ID. Wow, this is some lateral thinking right there. Yeah, they believe that you can supersede the Corporations Act. Just stand outside it. Oh, it's not for us. I'm sorry. We don't really like the font.
We don't consent.
Yeah. So you just write yourself out? Debbie went really far to find this one out.
Oh, deep. She went even further. Even further. Yeah. So, let's rewind to Kristallnacht. Rebecca Lloyd. She's the star of this show. There's a lot of players in this, but she's the star. She's in the previous clip. She's not going to take this lying down. She's not going to take it at all. Not like Monica, who signed up like a sellout. What she is going to do is she's going to take Cooker's money in the tens of thousands for yet another class action that will never happen, never had a chance of winning, and was never going to be commenced, ever.
Let's think about Martin Luther King. Most people don't know where he was when he said that speech. Most people don't know how many people were in attendance. Most people don't know if the press were in attendance. Can you remember what he was wearing? We know he was wearing some kind of a suit. No one knows anything. No one even knows the full speech. But everybody knows, I have a dream. And that calls to something deep, deep, deep inside of us. What is the difference between a vision and a mission? The vision is what gets you out of bed. The vision is what keeps the fuel in your tanks whilst you get in the mission, in the battle trenches of moving through the mission to get to the vision. Now, what is the mission right now for directors with this director's ID? The mission right now is to stand and form an alliance. And I call to you, you mighty Queenslanders, you royal priesthood, I call to you to stand up now as we have our time again. It is time to form a business alliance. We need to stand for our directors, because by standing for our directors, we stand for ourselves. We need to stand for our directors because we're standing for our brothers and sisters who are again faced with the taking away of our freedom. I am prepared to stand again for my nation. I have already stood twice for the state of Queensland, and I have been terribly harassed, bullied. I've lived on a flippin' oily rag. It has been extraordinarily difficult. But why do I keep getting up and doing it? Because of my vision. Because I have a dream.
The absolute audacity of this person is astounding. And to give you some context about who we are dealing with here, Rebecca Lloyd was the dumped One Nation candidate who was disendorsed because she refused to delete a video relating to an AEC probe. She didn't authorize post, which is very naughty. It speaks very clearly to a massive distaste towards regulatory compliance. We've made that very clear on this one. And she centered her campaign around the bizarre idea that the government was trying to erase the word mate from workplaces.
Damn them.
Oh, it's so dumb. It was a right-wing hysteria campaign that came after a workplace inclusion seminar suggested that government ministers shouldn't refer to each other as mate. Maybe they should use their proper titles.
Bruh.
Oh, terrible.
Bruh. I think
yes.
bruh.
I think the Minister for XYZ was what they were going for, but that's too woke for the cool, casual guys in Parliament. What? Idiots.
But it's good to know that she won't be living on an oily rag anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Because she just made tens of thousands of dollars and possibly more if people actually take up her offer for bizarrely priced marketing services.
Yeah.
She did have a dream that she could pull off a class action lawsuit scam and get away with it. I have a dream. And turn the proceeds into almost worthless gift vouchers.
Yeah, some might say that invoking Martin Luther King Jr. is tasteless, especially in this situation. But in the cookie universe, this sort of shit really motivates them. They fucking love it. They clap in the crowd for this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, standing at the fucking lectern and saying, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will be able to commit fraud at a company level without legal consequences, collapse companies, and run from creditors. Fuck off. So as the director ID hysteria blew up in the pseudo-law cooker space, Lloyd got an idea. Ding! We could start a class action. That fixes everything, especially my personal financial problems. After all the wins the movement have had in the last, however long in court, I think that's still hovering around zero. She decided to get the troops together, put the hat out, and have a day in court. Bring the sandwiches.
Becky needs new shoes.
Oh, yeah,
she didn't get too much
some
traction, so she decided she would amplify the message and split the pot by getting Tony Nikolic on board. Ooh, there's a name we remember, alongside classic legal genius Rod Cullen and Mike Holt of Know Your Rights. This is the dream team, isn't it?
Isn't it just the enemy of crockery everywhere is in there just like going, okay, I'll sign on, but if the coffee table is going to be there, I need foam cups. Foam cups only. I can't do it again.
No sharp edges.
Yeah, it's great. So the fundraising total was around $100,000. Classic conservative figure. And she claimed they got close to it. Though one of her posts that Vaxatious Litigant posted claimed that it got to around 24K. And that's not close.
It's not close.
That's not close.
It's an extraordinary amount of money for a grift. But anyway.
Oh, yeah, it's a ridiculous amount of money for free. Unfortunately, due to the failure to hit the target, which she actually stopped the fundraiser early to then miserably say, oh, we didn't quite make it there. She announced, sadly, that the class action won't be going ahead.
Oh, the grift is over.
When we have the numbers, we will become a lobbying organisation. Right now, we will use our marketing services to grow awareness, to grow the numbers to help people, to find out helpful things for your business so that you can continue to move forward. But when we have the numbers, we will move to have a lobby organisation, okay? But we need numbers to do that. There is no point writing letters. There is no point signing e-petitions. We need a lot more than just a petition every single week to people who don't care because they're too busy drinking fine wine and doing dirty deals in the dark. And all the other things that go on in Canberra, which let me tell you, I heard that firsthand from someone who spent a lot of time in Canberra. Cocaine and prostitutes. Right. Again, your membership with Fair Business Australia will have a number of different tiers. For those of you who have already donated, I will make this so right for you because I am so grateful for those of you who have dug deep. We have had some gifts of up to $1,000, and the people that don't have money but have still dug deep and given $50 when they didn't have it. So for those of you who have given $50, you will get automatic membership already. Okay. For those of you who have given more than that, automatic membership, I will make it worth your while. So for those of you who have already donated, there is nothing more that you need to do now. I am going to give you the link now so that you can get yourself a membership and join us. And folks, if you're not ready to join, then with the greatest respect, I don't know why you're still here. I really don't. I don't know why you're still here.
But the good news is the money you put toward the class action is not lost. You get a gift voucher to spend with Rebecca, Lloyd's marketing firm, Fair Business Australia. Nothing more fair than that. It's in the title. Hurry, though. Despite the federal law around gift cards having at least a 3-year expiry date from purchase, as Vexatious Litigant found, which is fantastic sleuthing work, she's decided to turn these things into dust in 6 months. 6-month expiry. I'll tell you what, if you wait longer than that, I mean, what are you even doing in business,
That's
bro?
right.
You need a winner's mindset.
Just opportunity lost.
I tell you what, Senator Babbitt, man, he'd have that thing signed up in a minute. So just get cracking and, obviously give Rebecca more money.
Yeah. The winner's mindset will cost you about $1,000. Woo, that's nothing. That's nothing.
It's nothing.
That's a starting package. Of course, it has some absurd inflated retail price to make you think it's a bargain. But essentially, unless you give this pointless and meritless class action $1,000, you're going to be out of pocket to use your newly minted gift voucher.
Yeah.
So you're not going to learn about marketing or nothing.
No, you're just going to give this person money. It is outrageous. To give you a summary of what just happened, the government is implementing a mechanism to control fraud. Cookers are up in arms about it because it's a form of digital identification. Base-level grifters use this to cause a hysterical response and sell memberships to their shitty pseudo-law websites with paywalls. And Rebecca came along and out-grifted the fuck out of them by starting this elaborate class action with zero chance of success, astonishingly aligning with actual lawyers who should be disciplined for this by the New South Wales Law Society, who take a solid chunk of money from people who must have donation fatigue by now and have no idea what they're donating to and why, except for the whole, Klaus Schwab's going to make you eat bugs if you're a company director or some shit. But don't worry, guys. If you did donate, throw another $800-900 at her and she'll show you how to use YouTube. I mean, that's what basically she's offering. It's so bad.
Yeah, brand management
so
or whatever it's
bad.
called.
Oh my God, it's so bad.
Look, while it's not the biggest class action grift we have seen, not by miles, it's probably one of the most predatory and opportunistic ones. If she had a shred of personal integrity, she would give refunds to those that donated. But it was never about the class action. It's just business, just business. It's nothing personal, mate.
Yeah, it's just business. Just business. Good business.
I was reporting from the Downing Centre in Sydney. That's the courts, the Sydney courts, a long time ago. It was about 20 years ago. When I came across a trial of a man who held a senior position with a corporation as an accountant. He'd been charged with supply, having been found with 6 tablets of MDMA. That's ecstasy. 6 tablets, in the view of New South Wales Police Service, was sufficient for a supply rather than a possession charge. And the threshold in New South Wales is, in fact, 0.75 grams, where a supply charge can be applied.
That is such horseshit.
Yeah, it is. We'll talk about the history of this in a minute, but six tablets of MDMA, you could...
That's a night with a few mates.
Well, a lot of people could argue that is, that's just a good weekend.
Absolutely.
Now, supply of those 6 tablets, if dealt with in the district court, could have led to a maximum sentence of 10 years in jail. In a local or magistrate's court, the maximum penalty is 2 years. And the accountant caught with the 6 tablets was able, through his lawyer, to have the matter dealt with as simple possession, where the maximum penalty remained 2 years imprisonment. Ultimately, he was convicted and fined, no jail term, but he told the court, and I had no reason to disbelieve him, that despite him having no criminal history, the conviction for the possession of the 6 tablets of MDMA meant that he would lose his job and face an uncertain future.
Yeah.
Now, it struck me, I wasn't reporting on this, by the way. I wasn't there to report on this. I just basically was sitting in. And it just struck me at the time as unnecessarily harsh and at least lacked any sort of diversion reaction from the court, no interaction with health services or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was just crime and punishment,
Yeah.
Pretty much the same sentences exist today. Possession of a small amount of cannabis can now result in a police caution, but that's really the only change.
Yeah. The drug laws are still pretty strong. I mean, like, actual drugs, the ones they consider to be the harmful ones. But, like, let's face it, they're not all harmful. A 19-year-old kid found in possession of 19 grams of psilocybin mushrooms, magic mushies, is technically looking at life imprisonment under the Drug Misuse and Trafficking Act in New South Wales 1985. I've got a personal anecdote here. A friend of a friend was caught growing mushrooms by police. He had a bag of them and was arrested. It was 630 grams, but they were fresh. If you know anything about mushrooms, that's a few ounces when they're dried, and that's sort of what you do with them. He was also up for life in prison. His father was a Brazilian diplomat, got him a good barrister, but he was on remand. He was on remand for 9 fucking months in a maximum security prison for a bag of magic mushrooms. So when he was finally set to trial, he was released with a 15-month suspended sentence. He was astonished that he got off. But he already done 9 months inside. For what? Some fucking magic mushrooms. That is insane. And then, not long after, his father keeled over and died. And Lauro died within months of his father's passing. I mean, it's hard to say whether this was actually related to his time in prison or remand. But it's a very fucked up story with a very tragic ending. For what? Mushrooms.
Yeah, look, it's nuts, and it applies across the country, these draconian laws. In Queensland, for example, possession of a relatively small amount of cannabis, an ounce of weed, could result in 15 years in prison. The relevant law in New South Wales is almost 40 years old. In Queensland, likewise. They haven't been touched since. In fact, the Queensland laws were ratcheted up about 40 years ago. And that's in the post-Bjelke-Petersen era.
I was going to say, was that Joe? No.
They actually, the Labor government came in, the Goss government came in and ratcheted up Joe.
That's disappointing.
Penalties. So I talk to a lot of cops in my job, and most of those who've been in the system for a long time or have since retired will tell me that the so-called war on drugs, a criminal justice response has been a huge waste of time, effort and police resources, choking up the courts. If they had their way, this is police, by the way, if they had their way, it would all change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, drug law reform, it is a no-go area for almost all governments in Australia. I mean, ACT might be the one to stand out. They've weakened some laws when it comes to growing weed and stuff like that.
Quite a lot.
But others consider it too risky, and they're not quite wrong, because the fear of blazing headlines in tabloids and on TV news bulletins of this whole going soft on crime bullshit is too much, even for progressive governments to contemplate. You know, you don't want to be in Ray Hadley's fucking crosshairs. But the prospect of media hysteria is not sustained by the facts in countries that have actually undertaken meaningful drug reform.
As we record this on the 1st of February, yesterday in British Columbia, drug law reform just commenced with a 3-year trial program where cumulative possession of 2.5 grams, or what the Brits call Class A's.
Yeah.
We have a much more complicated classification system in this country. Heroin and other opioids like fentanyl, MDMA, cocaine, crystal meth will now not lead to arrest or charges in court. 2.5 grams cumulative. Yeah. Police may issue cards and suggest anyone found with a relatively small amount of drugs contact relevant health services. Now, British Columbia is a province of Canada, and in order to make the province's reforms work legally, they needed the support of the federal government, the Trudeau government in Ottawa, to waive federal drug laws in the province.
Yeah, it's similar to what happened in the States. You know, like they had all these states legalizing marijuana, having dispensaries.
It started in Colorado in 2012, and they were the first by referendum to decide that they were going to legalise weed. And the problem was that the feds had the Prohibited Substances Act still in place, and it still is in place. Right?
Yeah.
You've got legalisation over, I think, about 10 states now.
So many.
But the Prohibited Substances Act doesn't just say it's bad, wrong, illegal to possess the drugs. It follows it all the way through the system. So in the early days of Colorado legalisation, you had retailers selling weed who couldn't actually bank their receipts from the day because that would necessarily involve the banks where they banked in money laundering offences and possible 20-year jail terms.
Yep.
It created a really dangerous situation where you had these retailers basically having to pay guys to guard their money in safe houses with AR-15s.
Heavily armed security. Yeah,
often Iraqi and Afghan war veterans. It was actually good employment opportunities for them, but it was an incredibly dangerous situation.
Silver linings.
I mean, had this been more widely known, then you can imagine the rate of aggravated burglaries. All everyone all tooled up with firearms.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
Incredibly dangerous. As it stands, through the Obama period, so 2012. Legalisation in Colorado, as it stands through that period, through the Obama presidency and then the Trump presidency, and now again the Biden presidency, the FBI is showing no interest whatsoever. But the laws still exist on the books. So Canada, British Columbia, did it the right way. They actually said we need you to suspend laws in our province.
Yeah,
in regard to possession, and
they passed that, and Trudeau passed that.
Yeah, and it led to this kind of nonsense sort of reporting that Justin Trudeau was soft on drugs.
Get fucked.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, half the cookers you'll find are Nancy Reagan conservative types, but the other half are your Topher Field libertarian types. And I tell you what, I'd like to see that fucking asshole sit on his punsy little webcast and give Justin Trudeau credit for this. Because if you're going to be a libertarian, you're going to be a drug law guy. And even if the guy you don't like, when John Howard took away guns from lunatics after Port Arthur, lefties begrudgingly gave him credit for it. I'm sorry, but if you're a cooker and you can't give Justin Trudeau credit for this, either you're against drug law reform, fine, or you have no fucking beliefs and you're just a contrarian piece of shit and you can fuck off.
Well, I think in the end, the role of the federal government was minimal. And that was just to basically prohibit jurisdiction of their relevant drug possession laws in British Columbia. It was British Columbia who did all the work. They've got massive problems, by the way.
Yes, they do.
Homelessness problems. They've got massive drug problems.
Vancouver's pretty intense.
So,
I was going to say Stephen Harper wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, look, I mean, you'd find libertarians who would respond to this by saying, "Oh no, but you're not. This is not a libertarian move. This is bureaucratizing drug supply."
Well, that's the only way you can do it. It's the only way you can do it. But yeah. So to prepare for the January 31st, British Columbia has worked with police leaders to develop training resources and practical guidance, which are now available to more than 9,000 frontline police officers. In addition to that, the province is building new pathways into the healthcare system by hiring health authority-specific positions dedicated to building connections with local service providers and people who are referred to these service providers by police. These positions will also help connect people with resources and information on voluntary mental health and addiction support in their own community. I mean, this is all the kind of shit that you want to see happen and never fucking does. It's really good to see it. Drug possession in any amount will continue to be a criminal offence on K-12 school grounds and at licensed childcare facilities. So if you're going to go to school, leave your bag at home because it's not welcome there. You're going to have problems. Further, decriminalisation does not apply to youth 17 and younger, which is an interesting move, but look, you can't get booze until you're 18. Youth found in possession of any amount of illegal drugs are subject to the Youth Criminal Justice Act, which, of course, does offer them alternatives to criminal charges in some cases. So it's not all black and white.
Yeah, and as we said, the sort of media outrage that was expressed around the world is why governments are shy on drug law reform, because they become easy targets for shitty reporting. And the trial in British Columbia began just yesterday, as we said before, and will carry on for 3 years. And that's sufficient time for policymakers to analyse data and decide if the reforms stay in place, get tweaked or are disposed of altogether.
Yeah.
And that's British Columbia. That just started yesterday. But in Portugal, legalised possession of Class A's and in much higher amounts, dates all the way back to 2000, which gives us more than 2 decades of hard data.
Yeah.
And you know what? The sky's not falling in on Lisbon. Cats and dogs are not marrying each other, and mothers are not discarding their children from their breasts to have shots of heroin.
That's a shame.
Yeah, well, it's an image. Portugal's drug law reform were driven by the huge rate of HIV in the country, and that's what kicked it all off.
Interesting.
It was Europe's highest at one point. Now it is one of Europe's lowest in terms of just rates of HIV.
Yep.
Incarceration rates for drug offences, once Europe's highest again, are now below the European average.
Yeah.
Convictions remain in place for trafficking and large-scale supply offences and are dealt with harshly. So there is there's still that criminal justice response.
Yeah.
And Portugal is bursting with data, and I urge our listeners to take a look at it. The age of young people using so-called gateway drugs like cannabis, it has grown up. So basically you had this average of about 12 years of age before 2000, and now it's 14.
Interesting. Okay. That's a positive move.
It is a really interesting thing, yeah.
As a kid who smoked bongs, I don't think kids should smoke bongs. Not controversial.
I don't think they should either. Yeah,
no,
I agree.
It's real fucking bad for you. I'm an idiot. What can you do? So a 2015 study found the social cost of drug use in Portugal fell 12% between 2000 and 2004, from decriminalisation until soon after, and 18% by 2010. So that rate just kept on going up. And while the former figure was largely driven by the reduction in drug-related deaths, the latter was linked to a significant reduction in costs associated with criminal proceedings for drug offences and lost income of individuals in prison for these fucking banal, pointless offences.
Yeah. It's, this is kind of seeable sort of stuff, that could happen here. But look, people have not died with needles. That's the most important thing. People have not died with needles sticking in their arms from opioid use in Portugal at the tragic rate they were dying at before the turn of the millennium.
Yeah.
And surely that's a good outcome on its own.
It is.
But here's the thing about drug law reform. You can't just decriminalise and sit back and wait for everything to turn rosy.
Yeah.
Drug law reform has to be supported by health and addiction support services.
Yeah.
And not just for a year or two, or even 3, but for decades. You have to actually invest in this for really forever.
Yeah, but you'll get a good return on investment. And if you look at the British Columbia thing, it looks like they're absolutely going that way.
That's one of the criticisms that they probably haven't gone hard enough. And we'll get to that in a little bit. It's just that their funding isn't where it probably should be.
Okay, interesting. Well, in Portugal, these sort of excellent outcomes were achieved in the first decade of the 21st century because the country ploughed this further funding into treatment. This is what they did, and it's worked. Between 2000 and 2009, outpatient treatment units increased from 50 to 79, and that's quite a lot. However, the number of individuals in treatment for drugs steadily decreased between 2009 and the present, which is linked to significant reductions in health and welfare budgets, savings and money. Following the impact of the global financial crisis, it wasn't bad to find, a few savings behind the couch in drug bullshit.
Yeah.
It's definitely a positive for the bottom line.
This is what I mean, yeah.
So following the absorption of the country's Independent Institute for Drugs and Drug Addiction into the National Health Service, which itself saw budget cuts of 10% in 2012, I guess they stopped being so necessary, health spending continued to fall in 2020 to under 8% of GDP from roughly 9.9% in 2009. And 0.1% of GDP is a shitload of money.
Yeah, that's right. The gaps are starting to show up in Portugal now, not because the laws are wrong, but their support services are unfunded.
Oh.
And the circumstances in British Columbia are similarly fraught with only marginal increases in funding for treatment services. They talk a good game, mate, like a lot of progressive governments.
Yeah, it
they
did
talk
sound
a good game, but are they putting enough money into it? We'll find out in 3 years' time.
Yeah,
but the point is you can't do one without the other. You can't strike possession of hard drugs from the law books and sit back and wait for the good times to roll.
Yeah.
And the only way out of the criminal justice system response, which is the very definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome, is to decriminalise and commit to funding outpatient treatment for decades, as I say, really forever. What you will find, hopefully over decades, if you continue to fund these support services, is that you will have less people contacting these services, that you'll start to resolve some of the issues.
Yeah, yeah.
But what's the likelihood of any of that happening in Australia, Joel? Drug law reform?
Ooh, we have a very conservative sort of like, not to cast aspersions on your people, but this sort of late boomer, Gen Xer type where they just see drugs as being inherently satanic and evil.
Hell in a handbasket, Joel. Hell in a handbasket.
And it's not their fault. I mean, they lived through like these Ronald Reagan eras of this basically just like constant barrage of drugs are bad. And a lot of them never had the chance to enjoy them. I mean, you didn't come back from fucking World War II and have a pinger and go see your mates. That's just not really how the drugs worked back then. So, like, I can understand this generational gap between drug understanding, drug experience, and and the way that this works out in the ballot box. But look, people like Ray Hadley are dying every fucking day. So I can't think of someone, maybe Ben Fordham's probably a little bit, sus on the pingers. But for the most part, the youth are pretty pro-drug. I would say this is a matter of time, but it's going to be a long time. It's not 2 years, it's 20.
But the answer is it can be done. And people with bright futures don't need to have those futures crushed by the criminal justice system.
No.
And people don't have to die overdosing on opioids. It's entirely preventable.
Yeah.
And our cops can get on and use their resources and energy where they are needed.
Exactly.
Everyone wins.
Exactly.
And the savings made in public expenditure at the coalface through policing, the reduced cost of policing, and the courts being less choked can
Taxi
easily
come from
pay
work.
for this.
Absolutely.
That's you get the money, the savings there, and you plough them into support services, and you keep it rolling.
Exactly.
But we have to commit to harm minimisation, and not just for the current electoral cycle. It needs to be done kind of for decades.
Sort of ever? Yeah.
If not forever. Yeah.
Indefinitely, I think is the word we're looking for.
Cows have fucking masks on.
Everybody is up for the high jump if they deserve it. If they deserve to hang, they will hang.
Rise up, Australia. Men of Australia, time to step up and be real men. Protect your kids or go down biggest cowards this country has ever seen. Hang that animals.
So thanks for coming on Cooker Watch. You have been a long-time Cooker Watcher in this space, but you recently caused a fairly funny chain of events that culminated in concreter and boat enthusiast Dave Guru Graham having a little bit of a hissy fit because Ben Fordham wouldn't give him an interview spot. Aww. But how did all of this start?
Okay, how funny has it been? It started because Ben Fordham contacted me on Twitter and said that he wanted to have a chat. And I thought, okay, great. So I called him up. Yep. And he told me that he'd been watching this space for quite a while. Now, not being a 2GB listener, I had no idea that Ben Fordham had been interested in following the Cookers for some time. Didn't know he was following me, didn't know he was following Sauce, didn't know he was following, you guys. I didn't know. But he is. He's following everybody.
Oof.
Yeah, I know. He's
interesting. Lurking in the background.
Yeah, that's right. So we had a chat, and then he said, could you come on tomorrow? I want to have a talk about this. Can't even remember now specifically what it was going to be about. Just a general kind of chat.
Just chat about
I
cookers
think,
and whatnot.
just stuff about how did I get into it, why was I interested, and all that sort of stuff. So I went in and I had a chat with him, and that was great. I came back out. He gave me the link, put it out on Twitter. Didn't really, I expected a little bit of a response, I guess.
Yeah.
And then it got put on Telegram. Yes. And it was on Telegram. And then Kaz Harris got a hold of it.
Great.
And then the whole am I or am I not blocked by Kaz Harris thing happened, which is...
I'm blocked.
Yeah, you're blocked. Everyone's blocked, man. What I found is that anyone who's ever responded to me or probably, any of us in this space... They were blocked, like instantly blocked. Kaz Harris's block list must be thousands. Really, like the effort involved to going through and blocking all those people.
And free speech.
Free
speech.
Willing to hear everything, guys.
Yeah.
All
open,
opinions.
honest conversation.
Yeah. We just want the truth, mate.
Yeah, just the truth.
Yeah, just the truth.
So full of shit.
Absolutely. So anyways, it goes on Telegram, it goes all over Twitter, and of course the more they respond, the more we respond. It blows up. And my understanding is then this gets Guru's attention.
Yep.
And Guru's pissed about this. So he's walking around his boat all day,
stomping around.
Stomping around his boat, mulling up his weed.
Furrowing his scrotum chin.
Yeah, following his scrot. What am I going to do about this?
Yeah.
Anyways, so then he decides he's going to ring in. He knows nothing about radio. And honestly, like, that's okay. Like, not everyone knows about radio, but he's run into a completely different show. Yeah. Right? Completely different show. Different staff, different producer, whole different, like everything, right? He rings in. They're talking about beer. He jumps on, talks about the beer economy, makes up some shit.
He doesn't even fucking drink.
No, he doesn't even drink, right?
This
is what I think happened. The receptionist or the production manager, whatever's come back and said, the usual shit. Oh, you were great, man. You were great. And he says, all right, I does a favour for you. Now Now I needs a favour from you. So
that's how he speaks.
Yeah, I know. So then he says, I think it goes like this. He says, I want to speak to Ben Fordham. I want to be on Ben Fordham's show.
Yeah.
And she says, no worries. I'll let them know. As in, I will let their show know that you want to do that. Why don't you shoot Ben an email over the weekend and then maybe phone in on Monday morning?
Yeah, and this is his reporting as well. He's saying this from his side of things, which is probably delusional because the guy's at least a compulsive liar. So
I don't know, man. I think it's happened like this. I think she's said to him, why don't you email Ben? Which is exactly how you would fob off someone, right?
Exactly.
Right? And then said, why don't you call him on Monday morning, as in call in as a call-in caller. Yeah, just like any... Yeah, talkback radio type stuff, right? Luck. They have not promised him a slot. They did not respond to his email, right? Completely delusional. He is such an idiot. He didn't understand that whole process. He just did not. He's gotten on, was it Friday night? Oh, I'm going big time, man.
I'm going to fucking red pill people on Monday morning.
Red pill time. Yeah, this is it, guys. This is our big break. Mainstream media. Blah.
We're winning again.
We're winning. Yeah. And so all weekend it was hyped, and of course everyone knew. Most people understood what had happened. I understood what had happened. I did actually speak to Ben Fordham, and he was just like, not happening.
Yeah.
It was never going to be happening. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So I knew that the Monday morning was going to be epic. It was either going to be epic or it was going to be a complete flop. With him ringing in. Yeah, it was either going to be, he was just going to accept this and walk away, and therefore I got up at 5 o'clock for nothing. Yeah. Or it was going to be a typical Guru moment. And it turned out to be a typical Guru response.
Oh, totally. Had a massive tantrum.
Oh,
huge.
It was so funny. So funny. 3.5 hours of tantrum, followed by epic burns from Ben Fordham and epic trolling from his production manager.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. I figured that when I was listening to the clip, and the clip is available on your Twitter feed, which we'll sort of plug in a bit. Obviously, it's at Cookerwatch. I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah. It's not hard.
But yeah, basically, there's this sort of 6-minute segment where he basically says Guru's been lying about coming on the show all weekend, and it's kind of embarrassing. And he's been bragging about this all weekend, and it's just not going to happen, which, as you say, is quite an epic troll, because here's this guy who's streaming online, big noting himself, and then it all turns to shit because the guy on the radio says, oh, no, I'm fully aware of the situation. I just have no interest in this being reality for you.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself and seek help. And, I mean, that's the kind of thing that would drive someone like that nuts. And I guess in the end, what he did was try and incite his listeners, his followers, against 2GB as an organisation.
So it was clear from the beginning of the top of the 3 hours that he was not going to get on. That was clear.
Yeah.
Ben Fordham didn't actually respond until probably 3 hours later. What was happening is that constantly Ben's staff was saying, no, okay, yeah, no, just fobbing him off. And occasionally, I think right in the beginning, a male voice told him, it's not happening, mate.
Yeah,
it's just not happening. Just not happening. From that point on, he incites his listeners, his 20,000 strong army, of which there was maybe 4 people, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who were calling into 2GB and trying to be a pain in the ass. I actually called in at one point to give support to the poor woman.
Oh, that's nice.
And she was great. She was like, what do I do with them?
Yeah.
And I said, just keep doing what you're doing. They are hating it. Keep calling him Darren. She was calling him Wave at one point. Because she was like, what's your name again? And Mel would say, it's Dave. And she'd say, Wave.
That's great.
wave.
Just,
and then she'd
he
say
would hate
Dave, and then the lady would say, "Oh, Darren." And it was driving them insane. And then in
That's
the end,
very
she
funny.
started calling Mel Karen as well. So it was Karen and Darren. So
that is brutal.
it was just brilliant, brutal trolling.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the cherry on the cake was then right at the end when Ben Fordham said, "It's not happening, mate." And you know why it's not happening? Because this is who you are. You are a domestic terrorist. And he plays the clip of, Guru wanting to bomb Parliament House, make a 9/11 memorial out of it. Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And basically says, I don't know if you can swear on this show, Joel, but
yeah.
fuck off, basically. Yeah. And the look on Guru's face when all this was going, because we were seeing this live, because Guru was streaming it live, streaming his crimes live, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we were watching this, and it was just riveting.
He's not the kind of person that should really stream live in situations like this, because I don't think he has the emotional intelligence or the temperament to be exposed to the public when he's being attacked like this. But the thing is, there wasn't much of a public, but there were probably more people on your Twitch stream than there were on his.
Well, I think initially there were, I think he maybe got to 200 or something like that
look,
at
it's
one
not
point.
too bad.
It's not too bad, not too bad. A bit short of the 20,000, but...
It's a lot of annoying people if they start deciding to get on that sort of paper terrorism route and just hassle 2GB with calls.
Well, I wonder how many people were actually just trolls from my stream as well. Like the 200 includes everybody that's been watching on Twitter, from Twitch. I don't know how many of his people were watching, maybe 40, 50, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to know how many people are like that, isn't it?
I just don't think he's got the reach he thinks he does.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise me at all. In a situation like this, he sort of has that, I'm going to command my army to do my bidding thing. And that was something that he really did push very hard. The idea that they were going to go at 2GB. They said that the 2GB was a pedo ring.
Yeah.
I mean, who isn't a pedophile in this poor man's mind? 2GB? What?
Yeah, no, there's a big history. The 2GB, Ray Hadley, now Ben Fordham is, now caught up in that web as well.
What, in like the endless list of 28 names?
Yeah, there's now 28 million pedos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just making up as we go along, because
I got called a pedo protector on Twitter the other day.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I saw that. Charming stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, that's their go-to. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, look, being called a pedophile by them is basically like someone saying hello. It's a handshake. It's really not much of a thing. So it's pretty fucking embarrassing.
It's kind of lost its importance and its potency. Yeah.
It really has. And like, there is an issue that is sort of unfolding as we speak, because we've seen this 2GB saga go on where Guru decided that he had this entitlement to this show spot on the Monday morning by the producer, potentially, only by his side, saying there was, and then him sending an email, which he thought was a really big deal, but it's just a fucking email. That not working out. Then when that sort of, burned out, it seems like he's got a bit of a taste to the idea of mainstream media.
Yeah.
And he went to the Austereo Network, or Hit Network, whatever the fuck they call themselves these days, B105 FM in Brisbane, to try his luck there.
Yeah.
Recorded a segment, which you posted on Twitter, of an interview that was being recorded for radio. How fucking dumb are these people?
Yeah, I don't know. They're desperate for content. They contacted me a couple of days ago, actually, and said, would I be interested in talking to them? And I said, well, maybe. But at that stage, I was busy kind of doing other stuff. I didn't follow it up. And then when I heard this, I followed it up today and said, are we doing this, or what's happening? Because I had heard that Guru was doing this. I don't know whether they approached him, he approached them. I'm imagining they approached him, because they seem to be reaching out to everywhere.
Interesting. Yeah.
Listening to what he has was a 10-minute thing that I think they'll probably hopefully, if they do run it, it'll be condensed into a 30-second look at, Uncle Arthur type
Hopefully they don't mention his
situation.
Facebook page, which he mentioned a number of times.
Number of times.
Am I fucked in the head, or was it quite moderate? Because the clips on your Twitter account, if people want to listen to it, but it was about 12 minutes of him sort of explaining distrust with the government and general sort of stuff. Okay, there was a few reptilian themes and a few little things in there, but he didn't say he was going to hang any doctors,
No.
Didn't call for the murder of politicians. I felt like it was really like he was trying to moderate it down to get on the radio.
Oh, definitely. But the amusing thing about that is that he thinks pedophile protecting satanic politicians is moderate.
See, that's the problem. I do too now. I'm fucked. I'm broken. Send me back.
So it's bizarre, isn't it, that they think that that's the normie level of acceptance now, is that we all believe that we're being run by a cabal of, Satan loving pedophile baby eating.
Did say that.
Yeah,
and I totally didn't flinch for a fucking second.
That's right. We're so numb to it now.
So poisoned.
The only level of, maybe not say that is let's not hang everyone.
Yeah, let's not hang everyone.
Don't say that just yet. Let's just leave that.
Not the frontline workers that everyone seemed to quite like for a bit, but we'll hang them later once we red pill them.
Well, once we hang the politicians.
Yes.
We'll hang the politicians first. We'll just
they're
get
less
Bosey.
popular.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Bosey will come in and just fix that right up.
Yeah, I imagine he's quite good at tying knots, with his army career. So, I guess that's good. But you might need to employ someone considering how many people you plan to hang, you fucking sociopaths.
Well, Guru can tie knots, right?
Oh, yeah, he can. He's on a boat. He loves a boat. Yeah. Boats, knots. Yeah. Lots of forms of knots. It's great.
I mean, between you got Bosey and you got Craig Cole and you got Guru, I mean, that is the future of Australia, people.
Isn't it just? Australia won.
Mate.
Australia's best future. Don't worry about it. Yeah, fucking psychos.
We're in good hands.
Oh, yeah, perfect hands. Well, I'm hoping that the B105 interview doesn't make it to light because platforming this fucking psycho gets us nowhere. Yes, we mock them, but let's face it, we speak to a fairly small crew of fairly involved people, and we always make sure to moderate the content to make sure that the people who are hearing it and who are sort of digesting it get it within the right context.
Yes.
Having this fucking clown able to just go on mainstream media on the radio, promote his Facebook page as if he's just some sort of guy who's had enough, who's sticking up for little guy. No, you think McDonald's has baby meat in it. You're fucked. You should not be listened to by anyone. And I think that is the caveat you have to give when you're delivering this sort of thing. Otherwise, it is unsafe because people can't be fucking trusted because they're too fucking stupid. I'm sorry, but they are.
No, you're absolutely right. And, if B105 do actually give him a segment, I'd be really disappointed because he has just been exposed in national radio for wanting to blow up Parliament. He's just gone on and put a lie that he is after Ben Fordham now and Ben Fordham's family. Yep. He's just... why would another radio station platform a psychopath who wants to actually publicly go after a person's family?
Yeah. I mean, he thinks that Weambilla was a fucking false flag.
Yeah, that's right.
This is a Brisbane radio station who's going to platform someone who genuinely believes that was staged.
Yeah.
The shooting of police and an innocent civilian. You serious?
It's really disappointing. I mean, they I get it. They're probably a 20s, 30s kind of let's all have a bit of laugh about everything kind of radio station.
You got nihilistic Zoomers running the place by the sounds of things.
Yeah, you do. But it's still pretty irresponsible. They are a big brand. But anyway.
Well, hopefully some heads will roll over that, but we'll see what happens because I don't know. I don't know FM radio these days because I, unfortunately, like the rest of the world, don't listen to it.
So yeah. I mean, I listened to the radio the first time on Friday. Yesterday. God, it seems like a month ago. It was yesterday. I listened to 2GB. Yes, it was yesterday. For the first time, and I'm like, God, what's with the fucking ads, man?
The ads are never ending.
Oh, they just don't stop. So,
I used to listen to 2GB when I used to want to know what the other side was up to because I'm like a bit of a lefty and I was always listening to lefty-ass bloody ABC with all these lovely intellectuals on it. And I thought, every now and then I really need to tune in to see what the common racist is thinking. And now that doesn't even touch the sides anymore because this whole entire new right wing has spawned and it's like, oh, that's nothing compared to what I'm hearing from these guys. I mean, fucking hell. So, yeah, the Overton window has really shifted. And now, because I don't even flinch when I hear that everyone's a pedophile and we're run by reptiles, the idea of just basic milquetoast bloody right-wing whinging, it just doesn't do anything for me.
Same.
I need the stronger stuff.
Yeah, same. To me, it's almost moderate now. So it's like, oh, you're a centrist.
Yes, that's it. That window's shifting.
It has, yes. Yeah,
well, we need to keep our minds.
Good. Yeah, and this is, I think, why Guru was also so upset by this whole thing.
And surprised.
Yeah, surprised. He thought that Ben Fordham was one of them. I think these guys think that a lot of these more right-wing radio stations secretly agree with everything.
They think everyone secretly agrees with them because that's that narcissism coming out, that malignant, dopey narcissism where they're winning, guys. They're winning,
That's right. They think they're winning because, someone like Ben Fordham can only say so much.
Exactly.
You know, he knows, mate. He knows, guys. He knows.
Yeah.
But he
then
can
again,
only say so much.
But if he doesn't, then he's a pedophile.
Yes.
I mean, there's no real in between here.
There's no
He's
in
either
between.
your best friend or he fucks kids.
Yeah, so sort of Saturday, Sunday morning, he's our Ben. He's going to help us, crack open the mainstream media, guys.
Exactly.
And today he's a pedophile protecting Rothschild descendant, rapist, serpent, whatever.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Man needs a fucking sun lamp to stay alive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's fucking ridiculous. Well,
Yeah.
look, that was the general saga of what happened with Guru, where it's going. By the time this episode comes out, the B105 saga will have either blown the fuck up or gone the fuck away.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, we just saw a man who really wants attention, feel like he was about to get it, realize that he felt entitled to it, and then realize that he didn't get his way and have a tantrum. It was kind of funny.
That is exactly what happened in a nutshell. It was very funny. It was possibly the best 3 hours I've ever streamed in my life. To have it culminate with a right-wing radio personality come out and slam the very people that they thought supported them so humiliatingly, so forcefully. Look, it was bliss.
Yep.
It was just so cathartic to see that happen. Yeah, it was just great moment.
Well, it's likely going to be something that's going to unfold over time, and if there are developments, we will keep you all abreast. Now, where can people find you? We've said your Twitter handle 1,000 times, but you're on Twitch as well?
I am on Twitch. It's the same name. If you want to just read tweets, it's just cookerwatch, @cookerwatch.
Yep.
And if you want to come and watch some live streams, we live stream these fools. There's maybe 3 or 4 different accounts, different people in our community. And we are pretty much 24/7 streaming these fools and commenting and having an absolute blast doing it. So if you go to Twitch TV and look for Cooker Watch, I'm going to plug a couple of others. You've also got Warboat, you've got Disco Dead Pigeon, and you've got Cooker 28.
Very nice.
So those are the sort of 3 or 4 accounts that tune in. You can watch cookers with Cooker Watchers, not me personally, but like just generically, people who watch cookers, and anytime you want, and it's a blast.
I have to pop in and say hello.
Yeah, do.
All right, cheers. Well, thanks for coming on, mate, and let's see where all this drama goes up.
Oh, can't wait.
Cheers.
I think one of the first things it says within the Constitution is all laws within.
And with the wise words of brain genius Fanos Paniades ringing in our ears, it means it's time for Which Black Pill Fuckwit Said That, the quiz show that Eric Trump once described as, I take pink pills mashed into a spoonful of honey so I don't vomit them out of my nostrils covered in snot, which tastes yummy, not at all like earwax, which is yuck.
It's yucky poo, yucky no good.
Don't have that. Snot's much better.
He is an idiot.
And Joel, if you're successful in Which Black Pill Fuckwit Said That, you'll be gifted a 1-year membership to Dave One Egg's latest grift, where you can buy all the activation products you can eat.
Great.
According to Dave, he says, we'll offer exclusive deals, all in caps, and discounts from vetted and approved companies. Ooh, you bet they are, that make quality products. Dave and his team have, in caps, carefully selected the best companies. Carefully selected, Joel, to give you the most expensive piss in Australia.
Is it expensive if I win it, though?
Well, you're buying in bulk.
Yeah, I guess so.
And just in case you're in any doubt about this, Hayley Birtles-Eads is also involved in this amazing deal. She's a co-director of this shit show.
Nothing sus there.
And she needs new shoes, Joel. So it's got to be on the up and up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, she is a woman of integrity, and I expect nothing less than perfect honesty and complete straightforward business. No
bargains to make your piss very, very expensive.
I'm sure she loves Director ID because she's against fraud and phoenixing across the board.
Yeah, thought did cross my mind that she might not be terribly pleased about it. Anyway,
no aspersions.
Let's go
allegedly.
This is a very, very short quote, Joel, and I'll give it to you right now. I take the 5th.
Oh, fuck.
Was it 13th in line to the throne, gentleman pedophile Prince Andrew?
Ooh.
Was it, I'll be your lawyer and get you a discount on those impotence treatments I advertised on late night telly, Rudy Giuliani?
So sad.
Did a great job. Job.
Oh, yeah.
Was it man boobs up the wazoo and part-time golfer Donald J. Trump? Or was it 5 comes after 4, idiot savant and good-looking boy despite that nasty rash that's beading on his cheeks, Eric Trump?
Okay, there's 2 reasons why I'm choosing what I'm choosing. First is you entered with a quote from Eric, which makes me think it's Eric. Secondly, instead of saying I plead the fifth, which is what I've seen on TV since, I don't know, I was able to speak, he says I take the fifth, which I don't know about that. Now, it's either going to be, it's going to be Eric Trump.
No, Joel, it was Donald J.
It was Donald.
In a video that's just been released, actually, he made a legal statement, which is, what do they call it? He was deputed. No, that's not the right term.
Yeah. Deposed.
Yes. And he gave evidence to a grand jury in New York. Where
in New
he
York?
took the fifth in New York. And it's all about it was always considered to be a sort of nickel and dime sort of potential prosecution. And this is in regard to his payment to the former Playboy model, I believe. Or
Stormy Daniels?
Yes, Stormy Daniels.
Yeah.
And the use of political donations to fund that payment.
Oh God! Of course he did.
And of course, we all know about that from his former lawyer, Mr. Fixit, and who pleaded guilty to it all. So yes, he was. He actually took the fifth in August, and the video was released just today.
Very good. I love using public funds for silencing hookers because,
well, how else are you going to do it? You know,
I mean,
as if you're going to go to your own pocket for that sort of stuff.
No, that's ridiculous. Why would you ever do that? Like, just what a cunt. Anyway, next
right.
Next
well, it's not looking good for your bum rash, Joel.
No, it'll linger like the
It'll
underfunded
really beat up.
services.
Yeah, okay. Quote 2. Smart people, not like you, who go along with the government narrative and take a bioweapon. Nah, we were a bit smarter than that. Us people, weren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Was that frightened of roundabouts? Dave Guru Graham. Was that frightened of clouds? Dave Oniglio? Dave One Eggs. Was it even more frightened of clouds? Pete Evans.
Yeah.
Or was it frightened of Maya cards? Monica Smith.
Oh, yeah, she's doing the whole, like, no loyalty cards thing. She's not completely wrong on that one. I would go with, it sounds like Guru.
Yes, Joel! Your bum will
finally.
thank you for getting that right. Very, very well done. Yes, it was, in fact. That was part of the harangue the Guru gave to 2GB, some poor receptionist at 2GB, threatening Ben Fordham and
God, he's such an arsehole.
the radio station in general. I'd be surprised. And certainly I'd be having a chat to the police about that particular conversation.
Yeah, he also recorded the conversation, which is illegal under New South Wales law.
Yes.
And he also incited people to harass the station by telephone.
And Ben Fordham personally.
Yeah. And of course, did the classic, this isn't defamation if it's true, but I think you're all pedophiles. Is it true, though? Is it, Dave Graham?
I can only snip out a little bit of the very end of it. Otherwise, it would have been so obvious that it was Guru going, okay.
Yeah.
Like, we're after you, Ben Fordham, okay.
He just sounds like such a cunt at the best of times.
Fucking total bargain. Fucking
what
idiot.
a prick.
But look, one of the last men standing in the concreting and entertainment business.
Yes, he is. He's both. It's great. Nathan Glover, eat your heart out.
All right. Now, will your anus be pandered to, Joel?
I hope
This is
so.
what was yes.
That's how I like my anus.
So this is question number 3, and I think it's a real brain twister. I think the only way Pfizer can maintain its market valuation is by buying its own stock.
Okay.
This is a fucking real solid idea. In my opinion, this is now a toxic asset. Pfizer may get litigated out of existence. The Pfizer statement in response to the Project Veritas story should worry shareholders.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about Project Veritas before we go, or should we get the answers out there?
I mean, basically, I slightly mentioned it in Pete, but a guy got catfished on Grindr. he works for Pfizer, and Project Veritas were basically trying to get him to say controversial shit, and he did. He was saying they were basically mutating COVID to make new vaccines, that it was a cash cow, that regulators were in the pocket of Pfizer because they eventually worked for the company. But, of course, there's a lot of selective editing, and Project Veritas is to be taken with an absolute fucking spoonful of disgusting strong salt.
Project Veritas, which we sort of cover in our potential answers, is not exactly a balanced organisation.
No.
But here are the potential winners. Not a Nazi, although he does like to pop the uniform on, strictly for aesthetic purposes.
Oh, yeah.
Owner of Project Veritas, James O'Keefe.
He probably has a lot of Hugo Boss for no real reason.
Yeah, very right wing is Project Veritas.
Really good guy.
Please send money. I'm poor again over Yemeni.
Mm-hmm.
Or was it hedge fund manager? No, sorry, wedding photographer, Rukshan Fernando. Rukshan, I should say. Fernando.
Yes, Rukshan, yes.
He's not really an investor, is he? Anyway, here's a fantastic guy, a political leader in waiting to guide us through these difficult times. After all, 1.42% of New Zealanders thought so. Kim.com.
This is a hard one because I don't think it's going to be James O'Keefe because he is Project Veritas as such. Avi Yemeni, I don't know, I'm blocked. It sounds like the kind of thing that Rukshan would say because he wants to sound smart. And Kim.com, isn't he in fucking jail?
No, he's not in jail. Look, there's a fantastic story behind him. Not in jail. The FBI was after him. In the end, he threatened to sue them. He made that huge sort of Jack Elliott mistake. He got off. He just snuck away, and then he threatened to sue everybody, and it ended very badly. Yeah. And he did, in fact, he didn't run himself because he's not a New Zealand citizen, but he did run in the 2017 election, I think.
Yeah, okay.
But he had candidates who did and won 1.42%.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking embarrassing.
Vote.
Yeah, that's very embarrassing.
Yeah. So who's your guess?
I'm going to Rukshan.
Oh, no, your ass will remain
unsupplemented.
Uncoddled. Yeah, it was in fact Kim.com.
Damn it.
Yeah, and he's one to watch, Joel. He is really going nuts on this sort of stuff.
Pivoted
and they actually believe that Pfizer will collapse. This is and to be fair, you probably got that half right, and that it was the Rukshan Fernando had retweeted Kim.com.
There you go. Yeah. He would. He seems like a real simp for a fucking piece of shit like that.
Yeah, he's not a hedge fund manager. He's a wedding photographer.
No, he's just a naughty boy.
We fired you. We sacked you. We dismissed you. As what? As garbage, because that's all you are. You're a criminal. You're a traitor. And you're going to the biggest barbecue in history. So from Christmas dinner to you are the dinner.
Thank you. That's what I'll go with.
Now, normally in this segment, we have a soft-sit outrage, and by that we mean funny moment where some clown who regards him or herself as sovereign engages in some police and or legal hijinks, behaves badly in court, and ends up doing much, much worse than they would have had they offered a better defence or pleaded guilty.
Yeah.
Often to the point where they are hanging with the glooster. The snapping turtle is badass self in a van down by the river.
Yep, that's the one. We wanted to address the issue of subset nomenclature because it is beginning to spiral out of control.
Yes, members of the freedom movement have been described as sovereign citizens in media as a kind of umbrella description.
Yeah, it's a bit much. I mean, even morons in the freedom movement have pointed out that it's an oxymoron. And they know morons. They might not be technically sovereign citizens. That is an oxymoron, I'll give them that. But they are dead shit morons. And I feel like we're safe using that term, right?
Absolutely.
That's correct nomenclature. We're good.
We've got some others. The correct term, and one that is accepted in the lofty space of academia, is organised pseudo-legal commercial argument, or OPCA, adherent, because the influences of this movement, that has its origins in US white supremacy movements, going back to the late 1980s, has more in common in terms of the legal and constitutional frameworks in Canada, which, like Australia, is a constitutional monarchy.
Exactly.
In Canada, the vernacular is free man on the land rather than soft sit.
Yeah.
The trouble arose really, is that language is fluid, and those who know their linguistics will tell you that it is always changing and driven by vernacular.
In this way, with global communications, and to the great sadness of Jack, who bemoans the passing of Australian slang into the nebula,
it's bad.
Thrown into a black hole, very sad. US vernacular takes over, driven by media that lands on a term and just uses it to simplify their reporting. I mean, it's simple as that.
So that's we say when an object is a bit short of expectations or has been manufactured poorly, it is Mickey Mouse. And that's not rhyming slang for grouse, which the Yanks never use.
It
Rhyming
should
slang is
be,
good.
though. It
But yeah,
should be. 'Cause,
It's
yeah,
Mickey Mouse if it's a bit cheap and nasty.
grouse has died a bit as a term. That's a real shame.
It has, yeah. I think Pat Shield's keeping it alive.
I bet he is. There are numerous examples of the Septics taking over our vernacular through television and film, and it's a bit sad because there is very little we can do about it without turning into Chips Rafferty. And that's one of our earliest Australian actors to make it big overseas, who is a classic Australia talker, even when playing a British part.
Yeah, 30 days is September, April, June and November, all the rest of 31, February, which is 29 on a leap year. You know, see, I speak perfect Australian.
Yeah, perfect Australian. Yeah, it's that sort of thing. You know, guru on steroids.
Yeah, the first thing to say is that the term sovereign citizen or sov-cit in its generic use in media is a bit lazy and often inaccurate.
Yeah.
For example, media reports, including the cringy interview conducted by a certain Brisbane FM radio station recently, describe a long-term friend of the podcast, Dave Guru Graham, who is almost certainly not a sovereign citizen, but they call him one.
No, it's fucking ridiculous. We would describe Graham as a conspiracist. He's a cultist for sure. He's a vicious and violent ideologue. These are much more accurate terms, but they're not as catchy, and I understand that. I get that. He trawls around the internet and in person, seeking followers to expand his influence, and that is classic cult leader stuff, not sov-cit stuff. Ricky Bosey does the exact same thing.
Yeah.
They're two sides of the same fucking coin.
Yeah, when I think of Dave Guru Graham, I think, well, you know, at least Jimmy Jones had a bit of charisma.
Yeah, Guru's so unlikable. So, whereas we might look at someone like Wayne Glue as a genuine OPCA adherent because he has this whole litany of pseudo-law to back up his invariably failed legal pursuits, you know, like, it's different.
Yes, he's definitely an OPCA adherent. And for those who don't know the snapping turtle, he came up with the idea that the Australian Constitution was invalid. The Australia Act is a fabrication or some similar nonsense. Stopped paying his council rates, and 10 years of exhaustive legal back and forth later, he's been declared a vexatious litigant in WA Supreme Court, and he's living in a van down by the river.
Yeah, sorry, Wayne, you lost your house, but you gave it a shot, and that's what's important. Australians love giving it a go, and you did. Okay,
You did.
good.
And
yeah,
then he
thanks.
went.
But it is classic OPCA behaviour. I mean, we might even lazily refer to him as a sov-cit, and that might be vaguely right, but the real correct term is OPCA. And because, and this is the most important part here, Wayne, the snapping turtle Glue, didn't just completely stuff up his life by practicing pseudo-law that invariably saw him lose in the civil courts, but that he seeks to influence others to go down the same path. And that is an important differential here.
Yeah,
this is
that's
a
the thing.
path that is leading all the way down to you-know-where, to a van down by the river.
Yeah.
With associated economic poverty and, you know, inevitably having to wash your shit catches in said river. It's not very hygienic.
It's nasty.
It's not, no,
Yeah,
brown
pseudo-law
water.
adherents never win.
No.
Ever.
No.
Never, ever. But Glue, as an influencer, continues to lie that he has won his court cases and urges his followers to take a leaf out of his book, which is, in his case, a page from a 17th century textbook on Portuguese maritime law.
Yeah, quick and Garrett usually.
And have a crack in the district court, the Supreme Court, or bet the lot on red in the High Court and come off second best, bankrupted and living in a caravan at some point or another in one of Australia's natural flowing watercourses.
Yes, but not moving fast enough to remove the detritus in the water, which winds up in his originally white shit catches that now are a sad shade of brown.
They'd be huge.
They
Anyway,
would be,
it
wouldn't
gets
they?
more dangerous when OPCA adherents advise and seek to influence others to break criminal laws. And as we saw in Wyambler late last year, can have deadly results.
Yeah, and for all that, we intend to keep this segment going. We're going to call it Sov-cits for the Man.
Yes, we
because,
must.
you know, A, our listeners pretty much know what we're talking about, right? Like, fucking, come on. But B, people like Guru Graham absolutely hate it, and we love it. It's a fun term.
That's why. That's a very, very good reason. They hate it. And that's and then I can't really actually think of a better one.
Well, we
than
like
that.
it. I think that's another supplementary thing. I think, you know, it's fun. We're having fun with it. But so there you have it. The correct term for a sov-cit in the vernacular is organised, pseudo-legal, commercial argument adherent, or in the case of those spreading these sort of dopey ideas, influencer. You could just call them OPCA adherents. It kind of rolls off the tongue, doesn't really.
And by the way, cooker is a term that does make us feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah,
certainly when it is used to describe the poor sods who have been dragged down rabbit holes by influencers.
Yeah.
But we use it, and everyone does. But we feel a better term for those unfortunates is cult follower.
Yeah.
Now, someone like Smith or One Eaglio is a cultist or cult leader, because that too is correct all the way to the Oxford English Dictionary definition.
And this is not to take away from Tom Tanuki's discovery of the cooker and the proliferation of it. Bless your heart for doing it. But we do need to be more directed in our sort of nomenclature when it comes to these sort of guys.
When we're seriously reporting it, yes, we do.
Anti-vaxxers, conspiracy theorists, blah, blah, blah. When it comes to influencers, these grifters, these clout merchants, the people who like destroy lives and families, any term is really applicable. You can call them cultists, you can call them cookers, you can call them subsets if you really want to. Use whatever term you figure will piss them off the most.
Or you can simplify it and call them all cunts.
Yeah.
We hope we've made this clear.
Yeah.
I'm a staunch patriot. I love our country. I love our freedoms. I love that in Australia you can be anything that you want to be. There is nothing and no one stopping you from achieving your hopes, your aspirations, and your dreams.
It has been a huge week in Pete Evans. Or should I say, like, a couple of years, because Pete's back on Facebook.
Wow.
Well, he's kind of always been there. As someone who, at this point, almost pathetically, has followed the craggy-faced, disgraced former pizza cook for like 2.5 years now, I never really thought this would go this long. Didn't even realise his Evolve TV network Facebook page was still going. It took a post on Telegram with a screenshot of Facebook to make me realise the cheeky fucker was still on Meta. Good Lord. The page was started in August 2020 when his personal page,
saw that,
with around 1 million followers, that got the chop in November that year. So it was started just, a little bit before he got the arse. But his Evolve page is a little bit less popular with about 10,000 people. Look, I wouldn't mind those numbers in the shitposting group. That'd be kind of cool. Of course, I couldn't find the Facebook page when I searched, not on my main account at least, because I'm blocked. Just like blocked by Pete Evans, blocked me. Everyone Pete Evans related blocks me eventually. Probably have been for some time. I probably said something like, "You're a cunt," or "Stop killing children with liver broth." Well, it's mostly recipes for like steroid-fed salmon with a side of sausage salsa and zebra liver or some shit. It's still a bit of a ban evasion account, and I'm not sure if that's... Yeah, anyway, I reported it, whatever. Back on Telegram, I am absolutely disgusted to say that he posted a Matt Foley meme. If you don't know who Matt Foley is the Chris Farley Saturday Night Live character who blessed us with "In a Van Down by the River." That joke's him.
Such a funny man.
It fucking sucks seeing the Cragmaster quoting that. It just makes me feel gross. I'm like, that's our joke.
Feel dirty.
Don't tread on my toes, you motherfucker. Pete was also back in the news with news.com.au taking the piss out of his overpriced fasting retreats, and rightly so, because it is pretty funny considering the only thing he's good at is cooking, and he refuses to do that on this retreat.
You're going to pay not to eat his cooking.
It's great. It's so fucking pointless. Like, why would you go? I guess it's probably $1,000 cheaper than the other one. His response was completely normal, as usual.
Thanksnews.con with a capital N for some reason, you fucking buffhead, for promoting our wonderful Evolve Sanctuary to a new audience. Always grateful for your support, and I do believe that our fasting retreats are extremely valued, just like our cooking and other retreats. They're different.
No.
There's no cooking in the fasting.
No,
you're just not eating.
Yeah.
Go along to Pete's place and starve.
Exactly.
As a side note, he goes on to say, what happens when you fast, especially in relation to autophagy?
Autophagy? I don't fucking know. I haven't looked it up because I think it's
you
probably
are,
suicide.
well, look, yes, we should have looked it up. If you are unaware of what autophagy means in relation to eliminating damaged cells, then I invite you to take a deep dive into this to educate yourself.
Yeah. Oh, this is copy and paste. He said that.
And then, yeah, I know. And I invite you to take a deep dive into this to educate it yourself, you fucking idiot, Pete. And then you can see why the fake news would like for its readers to not know about this, especially in relation to the shot. Oh, I think he needs a vaccine.
Yeah, I think he does.
Never been a fan.
Nah, but like you can feel him seething as he wrote that. I mean, come on, Pete. You do love your research, to be fair. He goes on a post about fasting through the week because clearly he's not bothered by the news article at all. I mean, like, it's fine. Any publicity, all publicity, it's all good publicity, bro. Like, only narcissists would get upset by trivial things like this. You know, he's much stronger than that. He's not a malignant narcissist or a vain narcissist or a pathological narcissist. He's fine. But his feed is just the usual babble about vaccines and Bitcoin. You know, it's often laced with vulgar right-wing tropes. And in the wake of this Pfizer scandal we talked about earlier involving Project Veritas, some classic blatant homophobia.
Oh,
and as we said, because he got catfished, this Pfizer exec got catfished on Grindr. So they make jokes about gays. That's just great.
Oh, nice.
Classy stuff. Oh, he's such a fucking asshole. He also posted about how Bill Gates wants to eliminate eggs, which is bullshit, of course. He simply said that Beyond Meat, which, mind you, Bill Gates is a massive fucking capitalist. He's a huge investor in this. Have made fake eggs with less cholesterol, which personally, I'm like big fucking whoop. And like cookers like to highlight a lot, the guy's not exactly fit. Big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Eggs aren't being banned by Bill Gates.
Yeah.
You paranoid fucking halfwit.
Well, it could be that they've banned the chicken first, Joel.
Oh, very philosophical. Wasn't ready for that, Socrates. But Zippy Babbitt hasn't been idle.
Oh,
oh
good.
No. Yeah, he posted this tweet alongside a picture of himself at a fucking giant round neon sign. United Australia Party written across the top, Senator Babbitt written across the bottom, and a map of Australia bang in the middle.
Not Mauritius?
This is
Australia. Okay.
No,
All right.
no, Australia.
Just checking.
Classic cringy Babbitt behaviour. And this is how your taxpayer dollars are being spent. And he said this.
I just took delivery of my UAP neon. I think it's going to look great on the wall in my new studio. What's he doing?
Mm-hmm.
What's he doing? What do you think? He's throwing it open there. He wants to hear from us. And then there's various hashtags that he's repeated, UAP and United Australia Party.
Well, personally, I think it's fucking gross.
I think it's ugly.
Disgusting.
I think it's ugly and
Zippy?
it's got to go. I think it's got to be smashed with a hammer. Zip.
I mean, look, he's got the taste of, let's say, a cooked real estate agent who Bradburyed himself into the Senate.
Yeah, he's got that.
But it sends us a chilling message here that, like all shithead right-wing content creators, he's about to start recording nonsense in a brick room with a neon sign with his dumb name on it. It looks like Zippy Babbitt is about to start his career as a weird YouTuber guy. Sounds like shit, even though he's using expensive audio gear. We know that's this guy. Society needs this like a fucking moose needs a hat rack. This is superfluous to requirements, Zippy. Don't start. Just finish. But that wasn't the only moment Ralphie Babs made me puke into my own mouth this week. Zippy took a walk down memory lane, bizarrely doubling down on one of the most cringe photos in political history. He quoted this.
I posted this to Instagram back in February 2022. I was just a candidate in a David v. Goliath battle. Fast forward and now I'm a senator. Blessed to be able to have an opportunity to make a difference in the future direction of Australia. Thank you to everyone who supported me. I think it's about 14 people, isn't it?
Yeah, so who was Goliath? Who was David? Was it the billionaire that paid to get you in there?
Yes, there's been some release of Clivey boys spending about nearly 120.
Yeah, that's what got you in there. You're not David. You're fucking Peter Thiel, you anus.
Yeah, you're an overweight Goliath.
Yes, there is that too. So he's there in this picture, standing with his hands on his hips, wearing a long-sleeved red flannel with the sleeves rolled up and the tightest light blue cut-off jeans with like the ripped seams.
There's a little bit of cheesecake. Oh, beefcake, sorry.
Oh, it's fucking
Probably
gross,
looks a little
honestly.
bit more like cheesecake, but anyway.
It's pretty sad. This picture circulated some time ago. Around the time of posting, people thought it was pretty funny. He looked like a spanner. But that's how bad it is.
That's him.
He doesn't only just like stand by this cringe photo, but he doubles down by reposting it, which is just beautiful.
Self-awareness, not a jot.
Zero. So otherwise, Zip's obsession with communism is still a thing. He doesn't seem to really know what it is, but that's not really the point. We still don't know if he's learned of the death of Margaret Thatcher. How could she be dead? She's
on Twitter. She's got an account. It's her face.
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense. So he's appealing also to this sort of classic average Australian demographic, this sort of like Howard's battler type, by claiming the woes of people are due to government intervention.
Damn that government.
Yeah, sure, Zippy. Let's let the market decide. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, maybe lead in the diapers. Don't worry about it. Regulators are just stifling innovation. And look, lead-filled diapers are cheaper. This is how markets work. It's no problem. Thanks, Babbitt. So glad you're in charge. And then there's that cringe picture of Babs lighting a cigar in a shirt and vest his mum clearly made him wear in what looks like an advert tarot cash with this caption.
Happy Friday. After the busy day I've had, it's safe to say this cigar and a nice single malt is going to go down very well. He really has moved up in the world, hasn't he?
I mean, busy doing fucking what? You don't actually do anything. Your Senate attendance is under 50%.
I was going to say that, Babs, yeah.
I mean, most of the work you do is posting on social media. Nobody cares about your vote in the Senate. You don't have a party to work with. You aren't on any committees.
Nothing.
Nobody cares.
Really? Yeah.
Apparently, though, very tiring. You're still flogging real estate on the side, which isn't illegal, mind you, but it's pretty fucking poor form from a senator who farts on about how ineffective government is. You know what? It would be pretty fucking ineffective if you were in charge, you useless piece of shit.
Yes, he's getting rid of horrible, just terrible government job by contributing to it by one.
Yes, and doing nothing in the process.
You have been listening to the Conditional Release program with your host, Jack the Insider, and Joel Hill.
Jack can be found on Twitter on @JackTheInsider and Joel on @CrunchyMoses with a K. We've set up a Facebook page you can find fairly easily, and if you enjoyed the episode, please share it on social media. It gets us more ears, makes us more feasible, life goes on. Make the graph go up.
Yeah, we have a Patreon to help keep this sustainable. We mentioned at the top of the show, it's bloody time-consuming, the show that is, and we still have to pay the rent. Help keep the lights on, folks.
Please do. It actually does genuinely help. And if we could make this a career, I would put so much more time into it. For as little as $5 a month, you'll have access to all sorts of bonus content, including a weekly bonus episode of all the good shit that didn't make it in the main program. We always have like 10 things we want to cover. We have to curate it down to a few because otherwise the show would go Joe Rogan straight long, and I can't edit that. We can't be bothered.
Yeah.
You don't want to listen to it. But we do try and make it worth your while.
And finally, all feedback, tips, and death threats should be sent to the Conditional Release program @gmail.com. We would love to hear from you, even if it's to tell us that we are now directors of a company called Crystal Nut.
I saw that's Crystal Night to you.
Crystal Night. In
Crystal Night.
In Queensland, it's Crystal Night.
Crystal Night.
Yeah.
Thanks, listeners.
See
you
ya.
next time. Fuck, she sucks.
I don't think I ever want to talk to any of those people.
Fuck me, you guys are bastards.